Hey, what's up, everybody? Championship Leadership Podcast. And today, I'm excited. We got Aren Deu from Birmingham in the UK. He's a PT. He's a property investment investor, and also he's the podcast host of Finding Your Voice. And I had the opportunity to be a part of his show here, probably a month or two ago now. It's been a little while, but appreciate you coming back onto my show to be here today, man. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I think it was about a month ago you were on my show, Find
Yeah.
Your Voice. Brilliant interview, by the way. Got a lot of good feedback from that as well. So thank
Oh,
you for
really?
that.
That's awesome. That's good. That's always fun to hear that. And yeah, so I know it'll be the same here. So I always like asking this question. I know you said you've listened to a few episodes. So championship leadership, what does that mean to you when you hear that?
So I had to think about this actually, and I think it's kind of for myself. It's more championship leadership is leading by example and practicing what I preach, basically. So across the industries that I operate in, health and fitness, podcasting, and property, I always try and be that person who shows encouragement or hope and inspiration. And as you probably recognize, it's not always showing the highlight reel of Instagram and the amazing results, because in all honesty, there's a lot more stumbling blocks along the way. So I always try and be as transparent as I can in my messages, in my posts, in my blogs. So in a nutshell, championship leadership for me has just always been about being 100% transparent in what I do and just making sure I do what I say and I say what I do effectively. Yeah, that's it.
Love that, man. Yeah. So that's very similar to myself, as you know. So yeah, so important to do that. And I love that you're willing to show the whole story, right? I think that's so important. It's I mean, because that's what makes the wins or the highs so great, is just knowing that, like, what you got through or what you went through to get there. So and I think people love that too, I think, and they really do. They appreciate it when people are willing to show that, or willing to let you in on that part of the story. So
Absolutely.
well, tell me, man, like, what brought you to where you are today? Like, personal trainer, property investor, podcast host, got a lot of different hats going. And
Yeah,
like, yeah,
absolutely.
what put you on this path?
So it's a bit of an unorthodox path, as you probably recognize. Initially, it was very conventional. It was kind of went to school, went to grammar school, went and got a degree, and I was kind of doing everything my teachers or my parents told me to do. So just kind of ticking the boxes, get married, get a job, kids, X, Y, and Z. And then along the way, somewhere along the way, I went into corporate world, having got a degree, and I recognized very, very quickly that the thing I was striving for, which was money, because I came from very, very humble beginnings, wasn't the thing that made me happy. So when I had enough money to kind of spend it on a monthly basis, it was, I don't know, I wasn't fulfilled. I wasn't happy. So around the same time, we fostered my siblings now. So four of my siblings are from the foster care system, and they taught me more about life than I think anyone could ever teach me, like any book or anything. And it massively changed my perception on life. And I recognize that giving and, service and stuff, like being able to help people and just being grateful for what we have, even this conversation that we have today, that's what life was about for me. So I very quickly segued. I'm kind of the person, if I get an idea, I'll just jump. So then
Yeah.
I jumped back into university, and I did a master's in social work because I was committed to being the greatest damn social worker the world has ever seen. And I was going to
Yeah.
make sure, no kids were ever going to suffer in the world, because I just didn't want to see that. Very, very quickly after that, I recognized the bureaucracy in the system. I can't change anything. My hands were pretty much tied.
Yeah.
And that was a very disheartening moment for me in my life. And I kind of sat there and I thought, I know I can do more. I know I can empower more people or help people, because that's all I want to do. I don't care about the money. The money is not an issue. I just want to help people. And I didn't know what to do. And at the same time, we had a bit of adversity in our life. And within about 18 months, we lost about 7 people. And more importantly, out of the 7 people, it was my uncle. And when my uncle died, I was sitting with my cousin at that time, and he says he was able to take 6 months off work. And he took these 6 months off work where he just spent time with my uncle in his final months. And he was able to do that because he had a property portfolio that he had built for a long time, which I had no idea about. So that got my brain thinking, and I thought, okay, I need time. I need that freedom to be able to do that should one day my parents or my siblings get ill. or at the same time, I want to empower people as much as I can. So I just jumped into property world. I've never been an entrepreneur. I've never really had that trait initially. And I can't tell you it was easy, because it was far from easy. It was the hardest thing in my life. I had sleepless nights, loneliness. I used to think, should I just go back to work and earn a bit of money? What am I doing? Am I made for this? But cut a long story short, 4 years into the game, full throttle, I've freed my time up. Hence why I'm able to do interviews like this with yourself. I've started my own podcast, Find Your Voice, which is kind of finding your way. It's a metaphor for finding your way, irrespective of the adversities that you go through in life. And I've just kind of literally taken control of my life. And it's been hard. It's been tough. But when I look back, I can connect the dots and understand why I've done what I've done. And I've always kind of stayed true to my values, that when I get my time back, I would give as much as I possibly can. And that's what I try to do now on a daily basis through the podcast.
That's awesome, man. I love it. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And that's incredible. So you lost 7 people in a very short amount of time, man. Like, what was that experience like? Can't even.
So for me, I had never lost anyone in my family. I was very fortunate. I had my grandparents around. Everyone was there. So
how old are you?
I was 25 at the time.
Okay.
So quite late in life, if I'm being completely honest. And when it happened, I didn't know how to handle death. And obviously, you're seeing people and you're thinking, do I be strong? I shouldn't cry.
Yeah.
And all these thoughts are going through your head. And then I think it was probably the first time after about 3rd or 4th one when I seen my dad cry, sorry. And that was the first time I've ever seen my dad cry. And I was like, guys cry? Like, are we allowed to cry, for example?
Yeah, right.
And I was learning a lot. And it really rocked my world, because I recognize that we think tomorrow is a given. You know, we think even after this conversation, everything's going to be fine and we've got next week, or we can do it next month. And it massively it just made me think, okay, you have one chance now. And obviously I mentioned my siblings earlier, who have grown up in an environment I don't wish on anyone. They've struggled their life with adversity. And I just think I'm so blessed that I have the opportunity to create more with my life and do more with my life, that I'd never take a day for granted now. So that's kind of how it helped me. But in that moment, I don't wish it on anyone, but I think if we can look back and take the lessons from it, we can definitely use that as a resilience toolkit, basically.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I haven't experienced a lot of death myself, but I did, you know, actually, when I went through the seal fit Kokoro, I can't remember if we talked about it on your podcast, but, you know, a guy died right in front of me, which was an insane experience. But I really did kind of come away with similar lessons of, like, just the realization of there are no guarantees, just to live life. Like, I mean, it's cliche, but it's so true. Like, you got to live life to the fullest. You got to take advantage of right now. This really is the only time that you have. And, you know, whether it's with loved ones or building a business or whatever you're doing, you know, really live it to the fullest as much as possible. Yeah. What's, who are some you know, we talk about championship leaders. Who are some people that really stick out in your mind that you've crossed paths with that have made a big impact on you, and really kind of like what is it about them? What are some of the characteristics or traits that they've had as a coach, a mentor, a leader that impacted you, and maybe even that you've taken a part of and kind of helped mold who you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I did a bit of project management. That was kind of my leadership roles in my corporate world. And I've always had a mentor from that, Adrian, who I always remember and I always thank him till this day. And he taught me a few lessons, and simple lessons such as, when you're in a room, obviously try and get into a room where people are smarter than you, people have more knowledge than you, and then be a sponge. And he used to say things like, if you're in that room, speak less, listen more. Very simple. We've heard the quote, and I've always tried to do that. So what actually happened from me doing that almost too much was I was considered too shy or too introverted. But all I was trying to do is just be a sponge all the time. Another great lesson he taught me was that you can learn something from every single person that you come in contact with, whether that's good or bad. So what I tend to do is every conversation or communication that I have with somebody, I try and think about the good things from that and the bad things. So I look at leaders, and some leaders are very autocratic, for example, and I think that's probably not my style. I'm not that assertive, so I won't do that. And then I look at other people and I think, actually, I like that. I'll take that away from them. So I'm always watching people. I'm always trying to obviously stay true to my own values. I recognize my strengths. I recognize my weaknesses. I'm not the person who's going to come in and start yelling and trying to lead like that. I just want to do what's in my heart, put that out there. And I really want people to do that as well themselves in terms of whatever they do. And so, I model people like that. In terms of like influencers, I love what Eric Thomas stands for now. He's only kind of gone into the entrepreneurial space now in terms of like he's gone into real estate as well. But I
Yeah.
just love his values with his wife and, loyalty, integrity. Those are things that are really important to me, more so than money. And I believe if you stick with that, the money will follow at some stage in the future. So yeah, those are probably the main few people. And I've got a very good circle around me who aren't on social media, who aren't famous, who are just really, really nice people, like from the heart.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. I love it. And, I've always kind of been similar as well. Like I don't say a lot, and I am a lot of times I'm just listening and observing. And I don't know where it comes from. Maybe I learned it from someone, maybe it's just kind of naturally within me, but like, if I don't have anything to say, I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
there are some people that just they like to talk, they like to hear themselves, and,
Absolutely.
good or bad, I'm sure it's all well meant, but
Hmm.
yeah, often man a few words, and so that when you do speak, hopefully it lands with a little extra impact or power. Yeah. What's a vision for you? I talk
Absolutely.
about championship leaders and the vision they have. I always think back to like football coaches, the greats that have this incredible vision, and not just the vision, but the willingness or the courage to make decisions and execute on it. Which I know
Hmm.
you mentioned that just a little bit, where you're like, man, if I get an idea, I go with it. And I think
Absolutely.
that's a great quality of a championship leader, is that ability to be able to do that, to not let thoughts kind of overcome them about what might happen or what might go wrong or what will people think of me, and just the fact that you're willing to just go with it because that's what you want. What's a vision for you and what you got going on? Let's say just next 5 years.
Yeah. So it's funny you said that, and I'm glad you said that actually. By the way, that point, because my wife thinks I'm crazy because obviously I get an idea and I'm running ahead, and she's
Ah,
like, "Hold on, hold your horses for a second." But we
yeah,
work really well together because she's very pragmatic. She'll kind of think of the risks a little bit more and kind of almost devise like a system and a solution for it. Whereas I'm kind of the ideas and I like to think the creative person. But in terms of where I'm going, so obviously Find Your Voice is my biggest passion. It's not monetized, nothing like that. It's just I always promised myself I would try and give as many hours back once I got my freedom from real estate. So in the property system, we're working with a 3 to 7 year plan where we should have enough assets behind us and enough liquid capital where, again, I have my freedom back. But we're starting something in the next 3 months, which has been in the pipeline for about 2 or 3 years. And it's in the health and fitness industry. Again, I've seen far too many people die around me. I've seen too many illnesses. My wife is a pharmacist. She prescribes medicine and doesn't want to. So she's coming away from that because we want to create something that's natural. We're creating some products now in the health industry and we're taking a bit of a gamble. So this is going to be like my first entrepreneurial stint at
that's
really trying to
awesome.
do it. But we're just thinking if we can give something that is convenient, it's affordable, that people can take on a daily basis to help them with their health markers, that that would be our kind of bit done for the world. So I have huge goals for that, and that's going to obviously be coming out in the next few months. So in 5 years' time, hopefully growing that business and just really having that kind of, I want it in every household in the world. I want it in America and
I love
Canada,
it.
everywhere,
Yeah,
all
that's
over the
great.
world. And I just want to know that by somebody consuming that on a daily basis, they've shifted the odds in their favor, just even by 1%. And then I would have done my bit in the world. The big
Ah,
goals.
that's huge. I love it. So obviously you've done a lot of work for this. If it's getting ready to be released here and testing it out and all that stuff. So I'm excited to see that, and you'll definitely have to let me know
Absolutely.
once it's ready to roll.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, you mentioned a few times your first time into the entrepreneurial spirit, but like you've been investing in properties for a while now, so you're
Yeah.
definitely an entrepreneur in that world. But what are some of the, let's say, with this new venture that you got coming up? There's a lot of obstacles in everyone's journey. Like, what are some of the things that you and your wife have been running into that you've been having to handle and overcome
Yeah.
in that process?
So I'm a scatterbrain. I will want to do one thing here, one thing there, which you probably kind of guess, even in the stuff that I do. So literally this week, so the Monday just gone, my wife gave up her hours. So she used to work 5 days a week. She now works 1 day a week. And this
Okay.
was always my plan with real estate to not just free myself, free her up, because I need someone to take control of me on the bits
Yeah.
that I'm not good at. So I'm not great at systems, paperwork, and just kind of streamlining stuff. What I can do is think of the picture and I think, okay, we can go this way, we can market it this way. So we're kind of working together on it. So she's going to do the stuff I don't want to do. I'm
Okay.
going to do the more kind of front face in the pitching. Obviously, I've been in the health and fitness industry for 8, 9 years now. Got a bit of a reputation within my area.
Yeah.
I know some influencers like YouTubers and stuff who I'm going to be obviously reaching out with. I've got meetings planned. And yeah, I mean, I think we've got a story behind it. We'll obviously sell it a lot more as it comes up. Challenges, suppliers was absolutely a nightmare. We literally took us like 9 months to try and get the right suppliers because, again, it has to be ethical. And sometimes if you get these suppliers from the other side of the world who claim it, but there's no certification, and I don't want to put my name on something that somewhere down the line somebody can obviously point the finger at me. So
Yeah.
that's been a process. Funds as well, finding money, anything. If anyone's in property, things move slowly. They don't necessarily move that quick. So we've had to kind of make ourselves liquid. So we've had a little bits and ups and downs, but I imagine there's going to be so many more obstacles that I'm going to have along the way. Which again, I will always share on my posts on my social media. These are the problems, because one thing I don't want someone to do is go through the same stuff as me. I try and time collapse people's journeys as much as I can.
Yeah. I love that too. Yeah. That's great that you do that. What's, what's, I think, critical moments or turning points in our lives that had we made a different decision, you being somewhere completely different in your life, because again, going back to that, like just the willingness or the courage to make that decision when most everyone else probably wouldn't. Is there a moment that you can look back to, or one that you can talk about? There's probably multiple, right? Like I think we all have multiple moments in our life like that, but yeah, is there one that you're thinking of that comes to mind that you could share with listeners?
That really, there is actually. So you've asked that question, and I was actually going to save this kind of answer for my 100th episode for Find Your Voice, and it was kind of my story. So I've never shared my story on there, but I
Okay.
feel that now that you've asked the question, I'll briefly delve into it if I may.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest pivotal moments in my life, and it might be a random question, random answer, sorry, it was forgiveness. So I suffered a horrific assault when I was 25. I was doing a stint in boxing. I really wanted to be a boxer. I was told I could be a good boxer as a young child. My Asian parents are sending me to university, so I had to wait 8 years, come out of university. I tried it again, got selected for nationals. I was getting ready. I was fit. I had lost 42 pounds, and I was ready to fight. And I was confident of winning the nationals, at least on a local level. And I went out for a drink. I hadn't drank for 2 or 3 years, and it was an unprovoked attack. And obviously I was under the influence, hadn't drank for ages. I was like 5% body fat. Long story short, I was lucky to be alive.
Wow.
It was a horrible time. I'm not going to go into it now because I'll get emotional
Yeah.
on your podcast, and I don't want to be doing that. But
Oh, that's all right, man.
I went through this, and for 3 years after that, if I'm being completely honest, I was not a nice person to be around. I was very, victim mindset. Why did this happen to me? I've never done anything to nobody else. I've never hurt anyone. And it consumed me. And at that point, I knew my wife, but she wasn't my wife then. And even her, like bringing her into my life, it's been the greatest decision of my life. But I was not accepting it then. And I think I listened to a podcast. I think it was Andy Priscilla off the top of my head, when he took a scar on his face and he spoke about forgiveness. And the moment he did it, I thought, I need to forgive this person. Not for him, for me. And I
Yeah.
remember finding him on Facebook, and I wrote a message saying, I wholeheartedly forgive you. Long story short, forgave him. And I can't explain how much that changed my life. I can't explain it. I got with my wife. We got married. It's been the greatest 5 years ever. I was happy again. I wasn't being that person of, what if I was a boxer, or just sitting in a pub and thinking about, talking about the heyday and the stories. I was like, okay, that opportunity happened. I learned a lot from it. I learned the power of forgiveness. But now what I'm going to do is make sure I control everything. So I took accountability for being drunk that day, and I'll make sure I never get in that position again. And it taught me a lot, and it literally changed, again, my perception moving forward. So you've got a bit of my answer there. I'm going to obviously save it for
Man,
episode 100.
yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's
You're
that's
welcome.
powerful. I love, yeah, forgiveness. And
Mm,
so,
welcome.
so did you did he ever respond to you or?
Yeah, so he responded, and again, I think it was not a matter of him wanting to admit it over Facebook. He says, "Thanks for the message. Let's meet up soon." And I just said, "No worries," and I just kind of put a thumbs up. Obviously, I have no intention of meeting him because my heart is there's no hate or anything there.
Yeah.
But I can't explain it. It was like the biggest weight
Yeah.
off my shoulder ever. So if there's anyone even holding any sort of grudges or anything, it's not serving you. And life is short. We spoke about it. It's a cliche. But if we want to achieve great things, if we want to be great leaders, championship leaders, we need to go out there and take all that burden off us because we're going to be hit with stumbling blocks anyway. So we might as well get rid of that as well.
Yeah, no, I love I love all of that. And then, even the piece you mentioned, you're like, you took responsibility for it, right? Like, hey, I was out drinking. And even though it wasn't your fault, right? Actually, I was just listening to a book. It's by Jason Redman. He was a U.S. Navy SEAL, but in his, I believe it's called Overcome. And he's talking about his own experiences. And then he's talking about Jocko Willink, because he was a Navy SEAL in his book, Extreme Ownership, taking extreme ownership, which is essentially what you did. He had lost, they had fratricide, and he owned all of it. He's like, no, I'm not going to blame the weather, I'm not going to blame anyone else. Like, I'm the leader, I was a commander, I was in charge, and like, no matter whether it was truly in his control or not, like just taking that responsibility for it. There's a ton of power in that as well, and that's a hard thing for people to do. So I definitely keyed into that when you said that. That's big. So, and thank you for sharing, even though you were going to share it on your 100th. So
You're welcome.
I'm guessing most of the people that listen to your podcast probably don't listen to mine, so you'll be safe.
Well, hopefully they will. Obviously, I'll share this as well because I think some of the lessons, not just that your guests say, but also when you respond to an answer as well, there's always insights. And I think you said something to me on our interview, and I've always kept it. I've actually got it on a post-it note here.
Really?
And it was about living intentionally as well. So sometimes somebody will always say something and it'll just stick and it'll have such a profound effect on my life. So definitely I'll be sharing it because, we can always learn. Like I said, we can learn things from every single person.
Yeah, no. 100%. That's why it's like, that goes to, as a podcast, it can be, I don't put anyone above anyone, meaning like we're all people and we're all like equals. But then you start to get bigger named guests on your, and then there can be the slippery slope of like, well, who is this guy? Like, I don't want on my podcast. I'm like, what? No, hang on a second. I mean, so I just continually remind myself, like if someone wants to be on my podcast, I'd love to have them on. And no matter how many followers, that's another thing. You probably run into this. I'll ask someone to come on. They'll ask me how many listeners I have. I don't even respond to those people anymore. It's like, nah, forget it. I don't want you on my podcast. Yeah. Like, because someday I will have thousands and millions of downloads, and I guess you'll just have missed that boat. But
Nate, just on that very quickly, I reached out to someone when I first started my podcast, and it wasn't the right fit. So I'm glad it never worked out. And they asked me the same question, and this was like 3 episodes in, and they were like, no. Well, they actually responded. They said no. And I wrote a post about how I had 90,000 listens within 11 months, and it grew. The same person messaged me back, and I shouldn't have done this, and it's quite stubborn on me, but I said, no, sorry, I don't think you're the right person for my show. Yeah. And so there's a little bit of stubbornness in there, but at the same time, it's one of those things, isn't it? I mean, you can tell when somebody wants to come on and bring value. Like you came on my show, and there was just huge amounts of value there that you will give into the audience, and that's all I want from my show, because I need to attach your name to my show. So it's important for me. So just keep doing what you're doing, and
100%. And it's like you never know. I mean, whether it's a show that only a few people listen to, it could be that one person that like opens a door for you, or maybe that you just impact that needed to hear your message, and it was totally worth it. So, but it's as we continue to grow and the podcast can continue to grow and the reach continues to grow and the impact grows, like it's a good piece to remind yourself of, like to stay humble and
100%.
That's important to me too. So. Well, I appreciate you being here, man. And this has been fun. This has been great. I don't want to take up too much of your time. So I'd like to just wrap it up. And, what are 1 or 2 things that you could share with the audience? Maybe the kind of guiding principles that you live by, or some pieces of advice that they could take and implement into their life right away to help move them forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, it's my podcast. I don't have any sort of sales stuff or anything that I'm marketing at this point in time. It just literally is the message behind Find Your Voice, because if anyone is going through something and maybe they don't want an entrepreneurial podcast like yourself and they're going through adversity, just check out some of the episodes, and maybe not more so for myself, but just my guests like yourself, because there will be something in that story that you're probably going through yourself. And more so than that, I want to give you not just the tool to move through that adversity, but also I want you to have a look at the person you are. We all need to have a sit back and we kind of need to look at the person in the mirror and say, what do you want? Not what does my mom want or my spouse or my teacher want for me? What do you want? And it's only when you can really align yourself with your values and start working towards that. Because it might be that you want loads of money in a corporate job, or it might be that actually I want to be living like the Dalai Lama. I mean, it's entirely up to you. But until you know that answer, you will never really, truly, and I'm using a cliche here, find your voice. And find your voice is finding your way in life. So my only thing is, I'm 33 now. I wish I knew this at 21. I'm banging on at my little brother every day. Like, just be happy. Do something that makes you happy. Similar to what you said, Nate. Live intentionally. Do the things that you want to do. Don't do the things that you don't want to do. So that's my only advice is, any obstacles, any adversity, we can overcome them. If one other person in the world has overcome it, then obviously you can do it. If you just have that approach and belief, and just go out there and find your voice, basically. Yeah.
I love it, man. Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. What
You're
are
welcome.
some ways that we can follow you and get more information on you and your podcast and everything else that you got going on?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that. So findyourvoicepodcast.com is if you want to subscribe to the podcast. Again, it's slightly different, but if it is your kind of thing, please do check that out. I have a personal website, but it's not great. I need to update it. But it just show you obviously the health stuff that I might be getting into. So that's ARENDEU. That's arendeu.com. And again, I'll be updating stuff on there. And I try and offer as much free stuff on there. So there'll be free fitness plans and just health tips. And just, I'm just fed up of seeing people get ill. And I think I don't want anyone, because they haven't got the resources around them, to suffer in life, because I know what it's like to have nothing. So I'm thinking if I have the ability to give you a free resource, I'll try and do that. So maybe check those out if you haven't.
Absolutely. And are you able to release like what the name of your product coming out is? Is that public knowledge? What is that?
Absolutely. So it's in its infancy. So just hold fire on it. But it's Health Excel. So that's Health, the letter XCEL. Okay. And just stay tuned for it. Obviously, it'll be on my social media and stuff. Yeah. And I'll have to send you out some of the products as well, so you can try them as well.
Man. Yeah, please do. I'd love to. Absolutely. And I'll give a little, I'll give you a shout out for that for sure.
Thank you.
Make sure you check out his #1 episode with Nate Bailey, this guy named.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was my favorite one.
Good answer. I appreciate you being here, man.
You're welcome.
So much, and we will definitely stay connected. And I just appreciate you taking some time to be here.
Thank you for having me. It's been an honor. Thank you.